Kaloki or the original gods. Now, this is a long essay running into some 60, 70 A4 sheets of papers, but but we will not go through all that thing. We'll see some of these things quickly here. The fated day of Satyavan's death has arrived, and even as Savitri is ready well early in the morning, she prepares herself to confront universal time and fate, confront to challenge the destined moment and destiny. If the required price has to be paid to the god of pain, yes, she is going to do it by bearing upon herself the entire affliction associated with it. In this great undertaking of hers, she is helped by the eternal hand. She makes a small daily act a sacrifice to the presiding deity. She recollects the past and knows that it does carry the unknown future in her breast, a future that is full of hopes and longings and expectations, and therefore it is worthwhile putting in the needed effort. The mother says, this is the way in which the poem begins. That is what we have got now here. Canto 1 and 2. This is the way the poem begins. We will know the story of her life because she remembers it. Savitri remembers it, and therefore we will know the story of her life. At the celestial moment of her existence, she remembers all her past life, and then it will be told to us. That is exactly what we have got. She remembers, means first two cantos, the Simple Dawn and the issue are her remembrance. She is waking up, she is remembering all the things. In words, is already written up there in the transcendent. The whole story of Savitri, the legend of Savitri, the myth of Savitri is already written there in the transcendent. Savitri wakes up, she remembers the story. And that is what they got here. In other words, the first two cantos are not a kind of a flashback or the epic in the literary sense. They really mark the beginning of beginnings. The beginning is the transcendent. The story is already written here. Savitri has taken the birth here. Now she remembers that story which she has to enact now here. You see, she has to enact it. The celestial moment of her existence. She remembers all her past life, and then it will be told to us. Everything in Savitri is gathering around that fated day, the day of Satyavan's death. That indeed is the most significant event in her life, in the journey of her soul, the mission, the task she has come to do, and of course accomplish. That is the central issue also of this meaningful creation. It is not only the Savitri story, it is the issue of creation itself, or the mortal world itself. Nothing else seems to matter. Memory of her past, or the past wishes and needs and dreams and optimizes, her life's expectations, her achievement, everything simple or small or great flies back to her. She remembers how her precious joy was always accompanied by doom. The year is about to come to a close, and the day on which Satyavan is to die has dawned. It is the occult law that when everything seems lost, there is no helping hand in sight. Every tried means fails to provide succor and relief. For whom? For one who is inwardly conscious is drawn more and more towards God. Yes, the moment is crucial, but if you are conscious, you are drawn more and more close to God. The surface soul, the outward person, devoid of the active divine element, retreats, and the inner being comes forward to take charge of things and events. Such hour had fallen now on Savitri. She is equipped, she is organized to face the inevitable. The mother elaborates, For those who have come upon earth fully conscious of their entire being and conscious of their origin, how many conscious of their origin, there is at first a period when this consciousness gets veiled by the physical life and the body consciousness. This consciousness gets veiled. That is exactly what happened in the case of Shabindu. When he, as a boy, when he was to go to London, that veil was put on him completely. He did not know in England who he was, completely put off with it. And whatever was required to acquire there, that he acquired. But I don't know whether in the case of the mother also there was any moment like that. It doesn't seem to be there in the life of the mother, you see. It withdraws deep within and waits for the hour when the hour circumstances will make it necessary, etc. etc. Even those who have come fully conscious because they are compelled to take birth in the body of a child, their consciousness withdraws for many years, more or less, and has not the full capacity that it had in the other world. But some other circumstances, some event tears off the veil, and the inner consciousness takes birth, its place, and its activity. Actually, in the case of the mother, she said that I was conscious even from my childhood. She says that even from her childhood, she was conscious of the thing. It's only when the outer crust of the ordinary life is violently broken by some unexpected and tragic event that the inner consciousness has the opportunity of taking the place of the outward movement. Ordinary life violently broken by some unexpected and tragic event. That event was Shabindu going to jail for 1 year. He was sort of attached for the freedom of the country and all that, but Krishna tells him later on, it is not for that purpose that I have brought you here. I have brought you here for a different purpose altogether. And he says, I did not believe in him first. And therefore, that unexpected moment had come into life, you see. That is the justification of these dramatic events, etc. etc. Well, let's see in the case of Christ what happens. Do you remember the Garden of Gethsemane? It was a night, a dark and cold night. Christ was alone in that night. His death, seemingly unnecessary, was coming. It was not his death, if I may say so, as he was dying our death. He was dying our death. For there was nothing in him worth dying or that might compel him to die. But because he had taken the burden of humanity, he was dying for us. He had no sin, he had no unrighteousness, and the dark world had nothing of its own in him. He was waiting for our death. He was waiting for our death. That is the important thing. In other words, when the incarnation happens, it takes upon itself the entire burden of the mortality. He is immortal, but it takes upon him the burden of immortality in order to pull out of the eternal death. Oh, we do not continue to die on earth, but it is no longer, well, he says, he shared with us all the depth of people's being forsaken by God as he gave that terrifying cry, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? That is what Christ says, you see. In fact, that is what we have got in Savitri also, that line. Yes, all is God, you see, that is the answer. He descended to hell, much like any dying person, gave himself up for captivity, but tore apart. Christ was dying, waiting for death for the sake of others. Christ was fighting the death horror Let this cup pass from me. Christ was looking for human help. A glance, a touch of a hand. It was 3 times that he came up to 3 disciples who had chosen, who had asked, watch with me. They were there previous night, watch with me. And it was 3 times that he found them sleeping. Nobody gave him a hand. Nobody said a word to him. Nobody looked at him with human eyes. There is eternal life after death. But the darkness was silent and nobody told that. The darkness was silent, nobody told that. They were there, they were aware of it. See. It was a similar night when Peter, the most devoted of the disciples, went after Christ when he was taken to unjust court. Together with John, they went as far as the high priest's palace. They were let in not as Christ's disciples. The gospel uses terrifying word. They were let in because John was known there and he did not speak a word. They were welcome while Christ, their master and God, was being dragged there to be condemned to death, to be spat on, beaten, humiliated, slandered, and given away for crucifixion. They entered, and there was no danger for them. He said, these are the cosmic laws we have to meet here. Now, they fixed colloquy of the original gods. It's a long colloquy. I said 60, 70 pages, but we'll skip some of those things. You see. Again, universe way is single. On the bare peak where self is alone in the topmost, with naught. Self is alone with naught. The Supreme Himself is meeting His void. The Supreme Himself meeting His own void, not. And life has no sense, and love no place to stand. She must plead her case upon extinction's words, to die or to live or conquer. See, that is what Narada says. To live or to conquer. See. Extinction's words, in the world's death cave, uphold life's helpless claim, and vindicate her right to be and love. Vindicate her right. Yes, I come here in the mortal world to be. For what? To love. To love. Because this is God's creation. It is His creation. It is the creation of my Master, of my Lord. And I had to love it. I love it. See. Altered must be nature's harsh economy. Well, that is the karmic law. That is the law of suffering, law of ignorance, of death. That has to be altered completely. Death is a habit. We keep on dying because it is a habit with us to die. Our habit is to die, but habits can be changed. And we have to be aware that the habits can be changed. We have to prepare ourselves to change the habit. Then only there are the brighter prospects for us. You see. Nature's harsh economy. Acquittance she must win from her past bond. Yes, that is important. Past bond must be first removed away. It must be dissolved, must be cleared. Past bond, all the past karmas of the inconscient creation, they have to go away completely. An old account of suffering, exhaust, strike out from time the soul's long compound debt. It keeps on adding. You see, we have taken some loan and the debt keeps on building upon that, you see. The soul has entered into inconscience and the inconscience is infinite. It keeps on playing on the soul constantly, you see. Compound debt. And the heavy servitude of the karmic God, the slow revenge of unforgiving law, slow revenge of unforgiving law. Law, here stands for Yama, death, unfair. He is not going to give up, you see. And the of deep need of universal pain. Yes, that is required. Without pain, you will not stir up, you will not get up, you will not awaken to yourself, to your reality. And hard sacrifice and tragic consequence. Out of a timeless barrier she must break. Penetrate with the thinking depth, the voice monstrous her. You see, with the thinking depth, she is a Manomaya Purusha, belonging to that category now. With the full power of the mental being, she must push herself into the monstrous hush of the void. Means that hush, that void, mental Purusha cannot understand. It is a hush. It is silent. Mental being is incapable of understanding that monstrosity of the void itself completely. But she must do that thing now with a higher power. Look into the lonely eyes of immortal death. See, he is now making very clear, distinct. Yama, law, monstrous hush, they are the same words basically. Look into the lonely eyes of immortal death. She has to look into the eyes of Yama, face to face. She has to meet him. She has to meet him. The mother says, when somebody comes and meets me for blessings, she says that what she does is she will look into your eyes. That is all she will do. She will look into your eyes. She says that it is so that I can touch your soul. By looking into your eyes, she can meet your soul directly, you see. She will look into the eyes. Now here, look into the lonely eyes of immortal death. Savitri has to look into the eyes of death, immortal death, to look into his soul, what that real soul is, what that soul is for here, what purpose it is going to serve. She has to know and understand that thing completely, you see. So she is looking, she must look into the eyes of death. In fact, that is exactly the kind of description we got later on when she is debating with Yama. She is looking into his eyes. She is penetrating into himself and seeing his soul, something that is deep within her, within him. She is looking at. And with a new spirit, measure the infinite night, the darkness of the infinite. The infinite himself has become dark. That is the soul of the immortal she has to see, completely see. And with a new spirit, bare spirit, completely free of inconscience, she must look into the infinite night. The great and dolorous moment now was close. A moment she has reached. See, this is the whole description now. A moment she has reached. For what? What moment she has reached? To look into the eyes of death. She is now going to see death. A point she has reached. That is what we started with. A point she has reached. For what? To look into the eyes of the immortal death. That moment has come here, you see. So this is the description of the powers of the self, of the unbound self, which she has to house in her soul, and then meet death, look into the eyes of immortal death, after housing the powers of the immortal in herself. You see. So that is the preparation she has to do. With that preparation, then what happens? A mail battalion marching to its doom. The last long days went by with heavy tramp. Long, but too soon to pass, too near the end. That hour has now fallen on Savitri. The year is coming, 12 swift months. She says, this is what is saying. We have seen that line, the 365th line of Savitri, that mail battalion. All the days are now like a battalion passing over the year. 365 days are passing quickly. Marching into its doom. The past has to go away, all those 65 days has to go away. The last long days went by with heavy tramp. Yes, last days there, Savitri has to weigh the grief of the entire world in her soul and made that day. See, long battalion marching to this battalion, of course, is the march of days, of those 365 days when Savitri is going to meet death, you see. We have seen that line earlier. 3.5. 12 passionate months laid in a day of fate. 12 passionate months, exactly 365 lines. You see. Made in a passionate day, that is the long, that march of the battalion. See, it's coming to that end, you see here. So the whole story, the whole description, the whole poem is so well knit logically. Each one is connected everywhere, you see. A male battalion marching to its doom. Yes, marching to its doom because the past has to go away. All those 365 days have to disappear. They are no business to be there now, you see. The last long days went by with heavy tramp, long but too soon to pass, too near the end. The day of such a one death is there now tomorrow. So it's very close by now, you see.